Maya stood in the kitchen that morning, staring at the half-empty coffee pot like it owed her an explanation. 34 years old, juggling a job that drained her and a marriage that felt like it was slowly evaporating. She couldn't shake the vibe that something was straight up off with Elias. He'd been distant for months, always clutching his phone like it was glued to his palm, always dodging conversations about bills, savings, anything that smelled like responsibility. She kept thinking, when did my husband start acting like a dude I barely even know? So she cooked up an experiment. A wild one. Something she would have laughed at a year ago. She'd tell him she got fired. See if he'd show up as the man who once swore he'd ride or die for her. Lately he'd been acting like he was riding for somebody else entirely. When Elias finally dragged himself into the kitchen, hair a mess, attitude worse, Maya dropped the line. "Babe, I lost my job." He froze. Just froze. No shock. No "are you okay?" No hug. Not even a sigh. Instead, something flickered across his face. A tiny smile, quick as a blink, but she caught it. A smile. Like her losing her job was some kind of damn blessing. He wiped it off fast, but the damage was done. It hit her in the chest like a full-speed bus. "Oh," he said in this flat, too casual tone. "That's a lot. We'll figure it out." But his eyes said something else. Something cold. Something that made her skin crawl. Maya kept her face steady, even joked about it, playing the role. But inside, she was spiraling. She'd expected disappointment, maybe frustration. Hell, even a fight would have made sense. But that weird, relieved look? That was a whole new flavor of wrong. He grabbed his keys a minute later. "I gotta run out," he muttered, already halfway out the door. Run out where? On a Monday morning? After news like that? Maya watched him leave, her heart thumping like her body was warning her. The whole experiment had been a test, but instead of answers, she got red flags. Bright ones. Flashing like police sirens. She moved to the window, watching his car speed off like he had someplace urgent to be. And something in her gut, deep, sharp, unmistakable, told her she needed to know where. Whatever Elias was hiding, he wasn't hiding it well anymore. And Maya, suddenly wide awake, knew she was done pretending not to notice. She grabbed her jacket, snatched her phone, and stepped outside. Whatever truth waited out there, she was ready to chase it, no matter how messy, dark, or ugly it turned out to be for real. Maya hit the sidewalk with her heart still kicking in her ribs, that weird little smile of Elias's replaying over and over like a broken TikTok loop she couldn't swipe away. She told herself she wasn't the type to follow anybody. Not her friends, not her cousins, and definitely not her own husband. But today something in her snapped. Curiosity, fear, instinct. Whatever it was, it shoved her right into her car and told her to keep up. Elias drove like he had somewhere to be 5 minutes ago, barely hitting stop signs, barely checking mirrors. He didn't even look back once. That alone made Maya's stomach twist. A man hiding nothing at least glances over his shoulder. Elias didn't. He acted like the world behind him didn't exist. He finally pulled into a neighborhood Maya had never even heard of. Some older part of town with cracked sidewalks, leaning fences, and houses that looked like they'd been forgotten by the city. He parked outside this tiny cafe that didn't even look open from a distance. No sign, no lights, nothing. Just a beat-up red door like something out of a cheap detective movie. Maya slid out of her car, keeping her head low, pretending to check her phone like she wasn't literally stalking her husband. The air smelled like old espresso and rainy pavement. She took a breath, pushed open the cafe door just an inch, and peeked inside. There he was. Elias. Phone to his ear. Shoulders tense. Voice low. She ducked behind a shelf stacked with dusty bags of coffee beans. Her heart was pounding so loud she swore it echoed off the walls. She tried to focus, tried to listen, tried not to freak out. Yeah, I told her," Elias whispered, the words clipped. "No, she bought it. She thinks I'm being supportive." Maya's fingers curled around her phone. Bought it. Supportive. Her chest tightened. Elias's next words felt like a slap. Relax. Lena. I said I'd handle it. Just stick to the plan. Lena. Maya's whole body froze. The name hit her like a brick to the throat. She'd never heard him say it before. Never even heard of Alina. And the way he said it, soft but urgent, like they'd been plotting, sent a chill down her spine. She leaned closer, careful not to make the old wooden floor creak. No, she didn't suspect anything, Elias continued. She won't. Not if we stay on schedule. Schedule. Plan. Who the hell was Lena? Maya pulled back, swallowing hard. Her knees felt weak, like someone had unplugged her. When Elias finally hung up, she slipped out of the cafe fast, heart racing. Whatever she thought she knew about her marriage, about her life, had just been cracked open. She pressed her back against her car door, breathing hard. If truth was out there, she'd chase it, wherever Elias ran next. No turning back now. Maya stayed pinned against the side of the cafe, her breath fogging in the cool air as she tried to steady herself. Chapter 2 had already flipped her whole world sideways, but this was where things started to feel downright dangerous. Elias was still inside, pacing now, his voice low but sharp enough to cut through the silence. She crept toward the side window, pressing her cheek to the cold brick wall. A hairline crack in the wood frame gave her just enough of a view, just enough sound to catch what she never should have heard. She heard him before she saw him. Yeah, she still has no idea. Maya's heart didn't just sink, it plummeted. Hard. She felt it drop straight into her stomach like a dumbbell tossed off a roof. She ducked lower, clutching the edge of the wall so tight her knuckles went paper white. Once the papers are signed, Elias whispered, it won't matter. The account is in your name anyway. Your name. Maya blinked, feeling a wave of nausea crash over her. Your, as in Lena's name? The mystery woman he'd been talking to like they were co-commanders of some secret mission? She covered her mouth with her hand, afraid her breathing alone might give her away. This wasn't about cheating anymore. This wasn't even in the neighborhood of cheating. This was something else. Bigger, uglier, scarier. Papers. That word dug into her like a thorn she couldn't pull out. Not divorce papers. Elias didn't sound angry or fed up or ready to walk away. He sounded busy, calculating, focused, like he had a deadline to meet. Maya closed her eyes, her thoughts racing like they were trying to sprint out of her skull. What papers was he talking about? What account? And why in someone else's name? Her father's inheritance flashed across her mind. Money meant to keep her safe, to give her a cushion, a future. Money that Elias had always insisted they shouldn't touch yet. She suddenly wondered if he'd already touched it. If he'd drained it. If Lena had it. The idea made her knees shake. Elias's voice cut in again, harsher this time. Relax. I said I'll handle it. She bought the unemployment thing, so she's off balance. Perfect timing. Perfect timing. For him. Maya felt heat rush to her face. Anger, fear, humiliation all tangled together like old headphones in a drawer. She wanted to storm inside, flip a table, scream every curse word she knew. But she stayed still, because now it wasn't just about betrayal, it was about safety. Hers. Elias ended the call and moved toward the front door. Maya slipped back behind a parked car, ducking low as he walked past her with that same stiff, determined stride. She waited until his car pulled away before she stood up, shaking all over. If Elias had a plan, then Maya needed one too. And whatever those papers were, she had to find out before he used them to erase her life completely. With her pulse hammering in her ears, she headed for her car, ready to follow him again, straight into Chapter 4's danger zone. Maya gripped the steering wheel, swallowing her panic. Answers were coming, whether she was ready or not, and the truth was about to get. Maya stayed in her car until Elias's taillights disappeared around the corner, her pulse still thumping wild. She didn't know where he was headed next, and honestly, she needed a second just to breathe. But then the cafe door swung open again, and everything in her snapped back into focus. Because it wasn't Elias who walked out. It was her. Lena. And damn, she did not look like some random coworker or casual friend. She stepped out like she owned the whole block. Polished hair, sharp blazer, heels clicking against the sidewalk like she was headlining her own personal runway. Confident. Calm. Way too familiar with the staff who waved at her through the window like she was in there every other day. Maya slid lower in her seat. So this was the woman on the phone. The "don't worry, I'll handle it" partner in whatever Elias was cooking up. The woman with an account in her name. Lena pulled out her phone, typed with the speed of someone who lived online, then started walking toward the bus stop at the end of the street. Not rushed. Not nervous. Just composed. Like a woman who trusted whatever plan she and Elias had cooked up. Maya knew she should go home. Breathe. Think. But curiosity was running the show now, and fear was riding shotgun. She got out of her car, keeping her distance as she followed Lena down the cracked sidewalk, pretending to be on her phone any time Lena slowed or glanced around. At the bus stop, Lena sat down and crossed her legs, pulling out a folder from her bag. It caught Maya's eye immediately. Thick, official, cream-colored paper, the kind lawyers and banks love. Maya felt her stomach twist again, that same sharp drop she'd felt back at the cafe window. Lena flipped it open casually, like she was reviewing a menu. Maya moved just close enough to steal a glance without looking like she was creeping, though she absolutely was. The first thing she saw made her freeze. Her own name. Right there at the top of the page, bold as a punch to the face. Maya Henderson. She squinted, pretending she was checking the bus schedule. But her eyes locked on the line underneath her name. A line she'd never seen before. Beneficiary removal request. Her breath hitched. Hard. Beneficiary. Removal. Each word felt like it was made of ice. This wasn't romantic betrayal. This wasn't some affair or secret texting situation. No, this was worse. Way worse. This was financial. Personal. Deep. Someone was trying to cut her out of something legally, and by the look of it, permanently. Maya felt her whole world tilt, like her brain was struggling to process the level of betrayal she was staring at. Her father's inheritance. The account Elias claimed they shouldn't touch, the papers Elias mentioned. Lena's name on everything. It all snapped together like a trap finally springing shut. Lena checked her watch and closed the folder, tucking it back neatly into her bag as the bus groaned to a stop in front of her. Maya stepped back, ducking behind the timetable sign before Lena could notice her. Her hands shook. Her chest felt tight. She wanted answers, but now she knew she needed proof and protection. As Lena boarded the bus, Maya swallowed hard. Whatever Elias was doing, whatever plan they had, it wasn't just shady. It was criminal. And if Chapter 4 taught her anything, it was this. She wasn't safe until she knew everything. Maya drove home with her nerves buzzing like she'd swallowed a whole beehive. That phrase, beneficiary removal request, was tattooed across her brain in neon. Elias wasn't just acting weird. He wasn't just distant. He was doing something behind her back, something big, something crooked. And if Lena had those papers, then Elias had already moved from planning to execution. She unlocked the front door with shaky hands. The house felt colder than usual, like it already knew what she was about to find. She stood in the entryway a moment, breathing hard, telling herself not to lose it. But her chest still thumped like she'd run a marathon on broken legs. She walked straight into the bedroom, straight toward the thing she swore she'd never touch, Elias's nightstand drawer. Yeah, she had always said snooping was trashy, that people who dig for trouble usually find it. But at this point, trouble wasn't hiding. Trouble was waving its hands like a cheerleader. She yanked the drawer open. At first it looked normal. Receipts, random screws he never put back, old chargers, gum wrappers. But underneath the junk was a black envelope she didn't recognize. Sleek. New. Too neat for Elias's usual tornado mess. Her stomach dropped. She pulled it out and opened it. Inside were bank statements. A whole stack of them. And not from their joint account. The first page slapped her harder than any argument ever could. It wasn't her bank. It wasn't an account she'd ever seen. And worse, Elias's name wasn't on the header. The owner was listed as H.L. Account holder. Secondary access. E. Henderson. H.L. Her chest tightened. H as in her. As in Lena. Maya's breath caught. She flipped through the pages. Every statement was worse than the last. Large withdrawals. Thousands. Sometimes tens of thousands. Repeated transfers marked only as, "You are." Unnamed recipient. It sounded like the kind of label criminals used in movies, the type of thing accountants whispered about before calling the feds. Then Maya reached the last pages. The amounts weren't just big now. They were familiar. Too familiar. She recognized the dollar figure immediately, the exact total of her father's inheritance. Money she had let sit untouched because it scared her how precious it felt. Money meant to protect her. Money her father worked decades for. Gone. Just gone. Her throat tightened like someone had grabbed it. She staggered back and had to sit on the bed before her legs gave out. For a second everything blurred, and she pressed her palms against her eyes like she could force the world to make sense. But it didn't. Because this wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't an error. This wasn't marriage problems. This was theft. Slow, careful, intentional theft. Her father's life savings. Her future safety net. Her cushion. Her security. Elias took it. And he didn't even put it in his own name. He funneled it straight into Lena's. She wiped her face with her sleeve even though she didn't remember crying. Her head felt light, her chest hollow, her hands ice cold. She kept flipping through the pages like maybe the numbers would change. Like maybe the bank would suddenly say, "Just kidding." But the truth stayed ugly. Her husband had drained her inheritance. All of it. She felt sick. Maya slammed the folder shut and stood. For the first time since this whole nightmare started, anger eclipsed fear. Hot, pulsing anger rising from her gut like fire. He thought she'd never find this. He thought she'd stay clueless. He thought she'd cry, fall apart, do whatever made his plan easier. Nah, not anymore. She shoved the papers back into the envelope and tucked it into her purse. She didn't know the full story yet, but she knew enough to see the danger. And she knew exactly who might help her understand the rest. She grabbed her keys again, jaw clenched. Chapter 6 wasn't going to be about discovery. It was going to be about confrontation. Maya spent the whole drive home feeling like her nerves were hooked up to jumper cables. The folder in her purse felt heavier than bricks, like it was pulling her entire world down with it. Knowing the truth and acting normal at the same time? Yeah, that was a whole new level of torture. But she wasn't stupid. If she wanted answers, if she wanted protection, she needed to play smart. And smart meant pretending. When she walked through the front door, Elias was on the couch scrolling like his thumbs were training for a marathon. He didn't even look up at first. That alone made Maya want to throw something across the room, but she forced her face calm, soft, clueless. "Hey," she said lightly. "Rough day. Think we can talk?" He blinked, finally acknowledging she existed. Yeah, sure. What's up?" That tone. That weirdly casual tone that sounded like someone who had just buried evidence in the backyard. Maya kept her smile shaky, real enough to sell it. "I'm still stressing about the job thing," she said, dragging out the lie she hated. "Just wanted to get your take. Like, what do we do next?" Elias nodded in this fake thoughtful way. "Yeah, we'll figure something out. I'm just overwhelmed too. Money's tight. Timing sucks." He said everything and nothing at the same time, the king of vague answers. The more he talked, the more she realized he was choosing his words like landmines were hidden between them. "So," she asked carefully, "you're not like mad? Or worried?" He shrugged. "Nah. Stuff happens. We'll adjust." Adjust. Adjust to him stealing her inheritance? She had to bite her lip so she didn't snort out loud. She nodded, acting tired, acting defeated, acting exactly how he wanted her to feel. By 10, she pretended to go to bed. She stayed still long enough for Elias to think she'd knocked out. Then she heard footsteps, soft ones, moving toward the living room. Maya slipped her hand under the pillow, grabbing her phone. Her heartbeat was punching her ribs as she crept down the hall, stopping right at the corner where the wall cut into the living room. Elias's voice floated through, low, tense, whispering. Soon, he said. She thinks I'm asleep. Maya's stomach twisted. Yeah. Once the notary signs, it's done. Just keep your phone close. Notary. Signs. Done. Her hand shook as she hit the record button on her phone. She held her breath, pressing herself against the wall like her life depended on it. Hell, maybe it did. Relax, Elias murmured. I told you she won't see it coming. Everything inside Maya went cold. Not hurt. Not betrayed. Cold. This wasn't marriage drama anymore. This was survival mode. He talked a little longer, too low to catch the rest, but she'd heard enough. More than enough. She backed up slowly, careful not to make the floor creak, and slipped into the bedroom before he came back down the hall. Under the blanket, Maya stared at the ceiling, wide awake, replaying every word he'd whispered. The recording sat in her phone, burning like a warning flare. She didn't sleep. Couldn't. Every sound, every shift of the house made her jump. By dawn, one thing was crystal clear. She needed help. Not opinions. Not comfort. A professional. Someone who could tell her how deep this mess really went. And as the sun crept through the blinds, Maya knew exactly who she had to see in Chapter 7, before Elias signed away the rest of her life. Javier Ruiz's office sat wedged between a tax prep place and a Jamaican bakery that always smelled like heaven. At 7 in the morning, the whole block was still half asleep, but Maya wasn't. She hadn't closed her eyes once. She had driven straight there the moment the sun cracked through the blinds, running on fear, adrenaline, and pure I refuse to die broke energy. The lobby lights flicked on as she knocked. A moment later the door opened, and Javier, same warm eyes, same too long hair tied back, same I've seen everything expression, looked at her with instant concern. Maya! Girl, what happened? You look like you haven't slept since Obama's first term. She let out a shaky laugh. I didn't. And I need your help. Javi. Like bad. He stepped aside. Come in before the street hears you. The office was small but cozy, full of law books, family photos, and 2 plants that were fighting for their lives. Javier motioned her to the chair across from his desk. Start talking. So she did. The cafe. Lena. The folder. The beneficiary removal request. The hidden bank account. The recordings. Every detail poured out like a dam had burst. Javier didn't interrupt once. He just listened, jaw tightening little by little, like each piece was a punch he had to absorb. When she finally finished, he exhaled slowly and rubbed his forehead. Damn, Maya. I knew Elias always had that used car salesman vibe, but this? This is foul even for him. She swallowed. Can he really do it? Take everything? I mean, legally. He spun his laptop around, typing quickly. Let me check something. Maya waited, fingers digging into her jeans, heart pounding in her ears. Javier's face changed the second the documents loaded. Here we go, yeah. He filed these 2 weeks ago. She leaned forward. Filed what? He turned the screen toward her. Petition for marital financial restructuring. Maya blinked. What the hell does that even mean? It's a loophole, Javier said, tone flat. Basically, it lets one spouse claim financial authority if the other is considered unstable or unable to manage assets. Her mouth dropped open. Unstable? Javi, I'm not. I know you're not, he said quickly. But legally, if you're unemployed, stressed, and he presents manipulated statements, it paints a picture. A chill gripped her. So me telling him I lost my job sped that picture up, Javier finished gently. You handed him the exact excuse he needed. Maya felt like someone had punched all the air out of her. She gripped the sides of the chair. So he planned to take everything? Real quietly. Just sign it away. Javier nodded grimly. And if that notary signs off, he bypasses your signature entirely. The account becomes permanently controlled by whoever he listed as secondary. Lena, Maya whispered. Javier nodded again. Exactly. And once that's done, undoing it is a nightmare. Maya stared at the papers on his screen, her heartbeat thudding like it was stuck in her throat. This was deeper than betrayal. This was professional, strategic, ruthless. Elias wasn't hurt or resentful. He was plotting. Javier leaned forward. You need to file a counteraction ASAP. And you need protection. Whatever they're doing, they're almost done. You're running on minutes, not days. Maya swallowed hard. So what do I do now? Javier grabbed a legal pad. First, we get your evidence in order. Second, we stall that notary. Third, you don't go anywhere near Elias until we have a plan. Maya nodded slowly, the weight of everything settling on her shoulders. Chapter 8 wasn't going to be about fear anymore. It was going to be about fighting back. Maya left Javier's office with her nerves buzzing like live wires. Fear on one side, fury on the other, and dead in the center sat determination. She had the truth now. Ugly, dangerous, but it was truth. And Javier's warning pulsed in her chest. Stay quiet, play along, gather evidence. So that's exactly what she planned to do. By the time she pulled into the driveway, she'd practiced her totally normal wife act twice. Elias's car was already there. She inhaled, rolled her shoulders, and walked in like she hadn't uncovered his whole undercover financial betrayal. Elias was in the kitchen, sipping coffee like he paid taxes on honesty. He turned with that fake soft smile he thought still worked. "Hey," he said casually. "Feeling any better today?" Maya mirrored him with smooth acting. "Trying to," she replied. "Thought maybe we could talk later. I don't want to spiral." He nodded sympathetically. Too sympathetically. "Actually, I was gonna ask if you'd come with me to a quick meeting this afternoon. Routine financial stuff. Nothing big. Routine. Financial. Lies." "Sure," Maya said, keeping her voice steady. "I'm down." He relaxed instantly. Like her playing weak was part of his blueprint. She walked past him, sliding her phone deeper into her pocket with the recording app already open. Hours later, they drove across town. Maya stared out the window, recording everything. Elias kept glancing at her, checking her temperature like she was a ticking bomb. "You good?" he asked. "Trying to be," she murmured. The meeting place was a bland two-story office with faded blue awnings. Elias held the door like he was husband of the year. Inside, a receptionist pointed them to a glass-walled room. The table held a stack of thick legal documents, restructuring forms, exactly like Javier warned. Her pulse kicked hard. Elias pulled out a chair. "This'll be quick," he said lightly. "Just a couple signatures." Maya sat, resting her purse, stuffed with evidence, on her lap. She hit record again under the table. "So what exactly am I signing?" she asked. "Nothing serious," he said. "Just updating financial roles while you're figuring things out." Figuring things out. Translation. While he erased her. "Oh," she said softly. "Okay." She lifted the pen, let it hover, then asked, "Why is my name removed from the inheritance account?" Elias froze. Barely a second, but enough. His jaw twitched. His eyes flickered. "Maya," he said slowly, "where'd you hear something like that?" "Why?" she asked. "Is it wrong?" He forced a brittle smile. "Of course. You're overthinking. Just sign." She set the pen down. "Explain it," she said quietly. "So I don't mess anything up." A trap. Hidden inside his trap. Elias swallowed. "You're stressed. You're confused. I'm handling everything so." "So what?" Maya cut in. "So I don't exist on paper anymore?" His nostrils flared. "Don't start. Let's just finish this." But Maya heard it, the crack in his confidence. The shift. For the first time, Elias wasn't driving this mess. She was. He leaned forward to lie again. She kept her expression calm, but inside her mind was racing through every warning Javier had given her. Elias was cornered. She could see it in the tightness of his shoulders, the twitch in his jaw. He thought she was playing the naive spouse, too overwhelmed to question anything. But Maya was tracking every tone shift, every hesitation, every lie. And with each second, she felt herself gathering leverage, gathering proof, gathering courage she didn't know she had. Maya pressed record. Maya barely breathed as Elias leaned in, feeding her another lie for the recorder hiding under her purse strap. But before he could finish spinning it, the notary poked his head into the conference room. "Mr. Henderson?" Quick question about the signature order. Elias stiffened. "1 minute." The notary nodded and disappeared into a back office. Elias shot Maya a tight smile. "Stay here. I'll be right back." She nodded sweetly, but the second he turned his back, her heart flipped into survival mode. Because now she had a chance, a real chance, to hear what he sounded like when he forgot to act. She waited a beat, then slipped out of her chair and padded toward the hallway, keeping her steps silent. The back office door was cracked open, barely half an inch, but enough for sound to leak out. She pressed herself against the wall, hit record again, and listened. Elias's voice wasn't fake sweet this time. It was sharp, irritated, almost frantic. "No, she's fine," he snapped. "She doesn't suspect anything. She's signing today." Maya's pulse spiked. The notary replied calmly, "These documents transfer asset control. Her signature isn't required on all sections." "Are you sure she's aware?" "She doesn't need to be aware," Elias hissed. "Just stamp it when we finish." Maya's breath caught. Her hand shook, but she steadied the phone closer to the crack. The notary lowered his voice. "And the secondary beneficiary? I assume that's confirmed." "Yeah," Elias muttered. "Lena's ready." "She's been ready." Lena. Her name hit Maya like a shovel to the chest. But it wasn't the worst part. Elias kept going. This was always the plan. The plan. Her stomach flipped. We built everything around her. The marriage, the bills, the savings, everything. Maya reacts the same way every time. You just have to push the right emotional buttons. Her knees buckled. She pressed her shoulder into the wall to keep from collapsing. The notary asked, "And once the inheritance is gone?" Elias exhaled, annoyed. "That's the easy part. Once the inheritance is gone, she'll have nowhere to go. That's when we can control her." Maya's hand slapped over her mouth, trying to smother the sound of her breath breaking apart. Not angry breathing. Not shocked breathing. Shattered breathing. Elias wasn't improvising. He wasn't reacting to their troubles. He wasn't frustrated or stressed. He had engineered her entire damn life. Since the beginning. Every financial decision. Every guilt trip. Every moment he said she was too emotional. Every time he discouraged her from saving on her own. He and Lena had studied her like a blueprint. Used her triggers like levers. Played her like a rigged casino machine. Her heart didn't just break. It cracked open with a sickening clarity. She wasn't betrayed. She was targeted. The notary cleared his throat. "Well, she's still your legal spouse. Just make sure she doesn't feel pressured." Elias snorted. "She won't. She thinks I'm the supportive husband. She'll sign." Maya stepped back, pulse detonating in her ears. She felt dizzy, cold, hollow, furious, nauseous all at once. She ducked back toward the conference room before they came out, slipping into her chair like she'd never moved. But now she knew. This wasn't a marriage going bad. This was a trap she'd been living in. And Chapter 10 wasn't going to be about listening anymore. It was going to be about confrontation. Maya sat frozen in the conference room, her heart still spiraling from everything she overheard. Her hands shook, but her mind? Sharp. Focused. Done being scared. When Elias stepped back into the room, smoothing his shirt like he hadn't just plotted her destruction in the hallway, something inside her clicked. She wasn't playing defense anymore. She was done being his target. "All right, babe," Elias said lightly, slipping back into that fake calm. "Let's finish up." Maya lifted her phone, hit stop on the recording, and set it face up on the table. "Actually," she said, voice steady, We should talk first. Elias chuckled. Talk about what? Your feelings again. Maya pressed play. Elias's own voice filled the room. Once the inheritance is gone, she'll have nowhere to go. That's when we can control her. Elias flinched. Hard. The color drained from his face like someone unplugged him. Maya, he started, voice cracking. Oh, don't Maya me, she snapped. You planned this. You and Lena. She leaned forward. My marriage wasn't real to you. It was strategy. He scoffed suddenly, trying to recover. You think anyone's gonna believe that recording? You're unstable. You said it yourself. Really, she said, lifting the phone slowly. Let's see what the notary thinks. Elias's facade shattered. Give me the phone. No. He lunged. Not reached. Lunged, like a man who'd just watched his whole scheme go up in flames. Maya jerked back, chair screeching across the floor. Before his hands reached her, 2 security guards rushed in from the hallway. Sir, step back. She's lying. Elias shouted, eyes wild. She stole my documents. She's trying to ruin my life. One guard blocked him. The other helped Maya to her feet. But the chaos wasn't done. Because right then, Lena stormed through the doorway, heels clicking like gunshots. What happened? Why isn't this signed yet? She froze when she saw the guards holding Elias back. Maya! Lena barked. You don't understand. Oh, I understand everything, Maya shot back. Especially the part where my father's inheritance magically ended up in your account. Lena's face twisted, panic creeping past her polished exterior. Elias, you said. I said I had it handled, he snapped. Oh yeah, Maya said, lifting the phone again. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like y'all just incriminated yourselves. The notary, who had clearly heard enough yelling to get suspicious, stepped into the room holding the files. His expression was pale. These documents, he said, voice tight, have been altered. This is fraud. Silence. Heavy. Thick. And I'm calling the police. Elias's eyes blew wide. No, wait, don't. This is a misunderstanding. But the notary was already dialing. Security kept Elias pinned as he thrashed like a man drowning in consequences. Lena backed toward the door, looking ready to sprint, but another guard blocked her escape. Maya stood in the center of the room, shaking but solid. Powerful. Present. Elias looked at her one last time, anger, shock, and realization mixing in his eyes. You think you've won, he spat. Maya didn't blink. I didn't lose. That's the difference. And as the distant sound of approaching sirens grew louder, she finally breathed. Chapter 11 was waiting. And it belonged to her. The sirens outside the building grew louder, slicing through the tension like blades. Maya didn't move. She just watched as the officers walked in, calm and professional, as if busting open fraudulent schemes was just another Tuesday. Elias tried to talk his way out of the cuffs. Of course he did. Officer, listen, she's unstable, she doesn't understand what she's doing. One cop cut him off. Sir, we have recorded evidence, falsified documents, and 2 witnesses. Keep talking if you want, but it's not helping. The sound of the cuffs clicking shut was quieter than Maya expected. Almost gentle. But it echoed inside her like a church bell ringing at the end of a funeral. Lena wasn't far behind. She tried to bolt, heels skidding against the tile, but security grabbed her before she made it 2 steps. This is a mistake, Lena shouted. I didn't do anything. The notary held up the altered documents. You both signed these. Lena's face went white, like someone unplugged her soul. As the officers led the 2 of them out, Elias twisted back toward Maya. You're nothing without me, he yelled, voice cracking. Nothing. Maya just stared at him, calm, steady, unbothered. Funny, she said. I thought the same thing about you. The door swung shut behind him. Silence. The kind that feels like a whole world resetting. Javier showed up that afternoon, sleeves rolled up, face still half annoyed and half proud. You okay? He asked softly. Maya laughed once. Tired, broken, but real. Define okay. Fair enough. Javier set his briefcase on the table. Good news, though. I pulled the transfer trail. Your father's inheritance is recoverable. And the judge already granted you a temporary protection order. Maya blinked. That fast. When a man tries to financially erase his wife, judges don't play around. Javier leaned back. You're safe, Maya. Legally and financially. Safe. It didn't feel real yet. She nodded slowly, hugging her arms around herself. Thank you, Javi. Seriously. Don't thank me. Thank yourself. You collected the evidence. You kept your cool. You saved your own life. She swallowed hard. I don't feel saved. You will, he said gently. Just not today. By the time everything was filed, processed, and explained, exhaustion hit Maya like a sledgehammer. She grabbed a small duffel bag and headed to the apartment she used to rent before she married Elias. An old place with creaky floors and terrible ventilation, but the lease had stayed in her name. Something she never thought would matter. Now, felt like a lifeline. She opened the blinds and stared out the window at the warm orange glow of the evening traffic. Cars passed. People lived their lives. The world spun on like hers hadn't just collapsed and rebuilt itself in the same day. Her reflection stared back. Tired, puffy-eyed, but lighter. Freer. She whispered the word she had used just days ago, back when everything still felt uncertain, back when she thought she was testing her husband instead of discovering he'd been testing her for years. I'm unemployed. The phrase hit different now. Not like a confession. Like a declaration. A clean slate. A reset button. A beginning. A slow smile grew on her face. Small, shaky, but real. Because for the first time in a long damn time, Maya wasn't trapped, cornered, or controlled. She was free. Free to rebuild. Free to breathe. Free to choose her next step without lies weighing down her ankles. And this time, she wasn't scared of starting over. She was ready.